Hello, folks. This is Mark Gannon at the Iowa Podcast Studios in Des Moines, sponsored by Jethro's Restaurants, some of the finest restaurants in central Iowa. Today we have with us Joseph Jayjack of the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation to help us understand better what they do, and also we're going to comment a little bit on the IWill bill that still has not been funded. So I'll turn it over to Joe and let him visit a little bit about what he's up to.
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. So I'm Joe Jayjack. I'm the External Affairs Director with Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation. For folks that aren't familiar with INHF, we're a nonprofit conservation organization that works statewide to protect and restore Iowa's land, water, and wildlife. We do that in a lot of different ways. We do it through private land protection. We do it through helping to create new public parks and trails and wildlife areas. We do it through volunteer man hours doing active restoration on the land with our land stewardship team, our interns, our volunteers all over the state. So we do conservation in a lot of different ways, but mostly it's about protecting and restoring those precious natural resources that we have here.
I appreciate it. How big a staff does Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation have?
Yeah, we've been around since 1979. Our staff's at about 30 right now. So most of us are based out of our central Iowa office here in Des Moines, but we've got a few regional offices in Decorah and Iowa City and the Luss Hills and Council Bluffs. So we've got folks working all over the state. And we have about 30 folks on our board as well that are from all over the state.
Who were some of the beginners in 1979? Do you remember who that was?
Yeah. So it was actually established in 1979 with the help of Governor Robert Ray. There were Jerry Schnepp and Mark Ackelson were both working at what was then called the Iowa Conservation Commission, is now the Iowa DNR. And they were getting real frustrated because they were missing a lot of opportunities to protect land. Yeah. The speed of bureaucracy. Right. It's hard to react quickly to situations. So a piece of land would come up for sale, or a family wanted to donate land and see it protected, and the state's just not set up for a lot of good reasons to react that quickly. And so they really needed a private partner, and that's why Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation was created to help create these private protection opportunities. So Governor Robert Ray, Jerry Schnepp, Mark Ackelson were some of the original founders on our board back then. Robert Buckmaster was the first board chair. We've had a long involvement from a lot of those folks. Mark is still around. Jerry's still around. They're both still active in conservation. And even some longtime board members that have been with us since the early 80s.
Right. No, they've done a great job. I've worked with them several times. And like you say, I remember one time in central Iowa, you guys got involved on a piece of land that was up for auction, and there were some people that called me and says, "Who are those people? What are they doing? What are they going to do with it?" That sort of thing. And I had to kind of calm them down that, I didn't think the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation was going to hold it very long. They have to have the ability to step in and buy something like that. If somebody else wants it, whether it be a DNR or county conservation, or maybe some other organization, maybe a private individual that wants to do that.
Right.
So I think it's a little bit misunderstood in Iowa as far as what you folks are doing.
Yeah. It's all about protecting those really special places when we have the opportunity to, and we're able to do that because we're a donor-supported organization. We have about 10,000 members all over Iowa, all over the country actually, that support INHF. So that we're able to step in and be a temporary landowner, even if eventually it's going to be transferred to a public agency. So we can buy it, do some private fundraising for it, apply for grant funding to try to help fund the project, and eventually turn it over to a public agency or keep it in private land protection. But sometimes places are just too important to pass up.
Yeah, and that's. I shouldn't have probably mentioned the one earlier because there I've obviously competed with individuals, but I know a lot of people come to you wanting to do this sort of thing, and feel good about the state and want to help preserve it. And so that's what I know a lot of your acres come from. Do you have any idea how many acres you've been involved with since 1979?
Yeah, we actually just recently hit a big milestone, 200,000 acres protected since 1979.
Wow.
So the majority of that, about 175,000 acres, is now public parks and trails and wildlife areas. About 30,000 acres is private conservation easements that we've done with more than 225 landowners and families all over Iowa.
Wow.
So,
wow.
yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that's nice. You know, what do they say? Iowa has one of the fewest public lands available in the United States. Is that right?
Yeah. By percentage of land, we're somewhere between 47th and 49th in the country in percentage of public land that's available to Iowans.
Wow. And we don't have any national parks. Well, I guess does effigy mounds. That's some sort of
It's
national
a national monument.
national monument.
So
it's not a national park.
Right. National Park Service operates it, but not technically a national park.
Yeah.
And INHF actually had the opportunity to help with a 1,000-acre addition to effigy mounds back in the early 2000s.
Wow.
So,
Wow. Yeah. And my son is actually with the DNR manages the Stevens Forest now. So I don't know if they've ever been involved with adding pieces to that or not. You know.
Yep, we have. It's a beautiful place in southern Iowa, and we've had the opportunity to help add bits and pieces to the state forest down there. Yep.
Have you done much with pastures, any of that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. I mentioned the private land protection we do through conservation easements or agricultural land easements. I think about 80% of those easements have some type of agriculture on them. So pasture, row crop, it's land protection. All those conservation easements are tailored to what the landowner wants to protect. So it could be protecting it from subdivision or from development or from mining. But most of those have some kind of agricultural component where people want it to remain open space in the future.
How about going strictly to pasture?
Yeah, yep.
We got so many rolling hills in Iowa that probably shouldn't be farmed.
Absolutely.
And of course, I always thought there should have been a grassland reserve in Iowa. You know, it's kind of like the CRP, except for you could pasture it, and maybe that'll come someday. But we just have a lot of critical land in Iowa that probably shouldn't be farmed. And I manage a few of those. They're in the CRP now. I don't know what's going to happen if it comes out of the CRP program.
Yeah.
'Cause they can't be farmed again.
Right. We've lost so much grassland, I think, in the last 20 years. It's close to 1 million acres that we've lost. That's gone into row crop, I think, because of the way the markets are moving it. But grassland protection is so important, not just for, raising cattle. It's the birds and other species that rely on that as well. So pasture protection is really important. We actually had the opportunity to work on a federal program called Regional Conservation Partnership Program, where we were working with the Nature Conservancy and the DNR to do part of it was protection through easements and part of it was active restoration on folks' land. The program funding for that has been frozen since the beginning of the year. We're hoping that is going to come back online, as some changes are made in the NRCS, but it's a really exciting opportunity to protect pastures like that, especially in southern and western Iowa, where that program is going to be focused.
Yeah, I think it's really great that all these organizations like you folks and Ducks Unlimited and seem to all work together, where sometimes the federal programs don't always do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's especially when you get involved with the Army Corps of Engineers and things like that. You know, it gets a little more complicated. But
conservation in Iowa, no one can do it alone. I think every project we've done in our 45 years, we really rely on a lot of partners to make it happen. It all starts with a landowner, that wants to see this happen. But other organizations, other people that contribute to these projects, that's what actually makes it possible.
Okay, good. So. Well, one of the topics that's come up here recently has been the IWill program. That you give us a little background on that. I know it started, 2016 or something, a little background there and where we are today?
Yeah, actually 2006 is when it really got started.
Okay.
Iowa's Water and Land Legacy, or IWill, and the actual name of the program is the Natural Resources and Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund. So it's a mouthful, but I'll say IWill. 2006, there was a group brought together to study sustainable conservation funding for Iowa. What could that look like? Over a couple year study, they decided that what they thought would work best was a sales tax increase that would create a constitutionally protected trust fund that monies would be deposited into every year and would be allocated. There's a pie chart that shows all the different places this would go to. Most of it is toward voluntary soil and water conservation with private landowners. Some of it's going to go to creation of parks and trails and wildlife areas. Some of it's going to go to county conservation boards. And so there was kind of a distribution formula put together, had to pass through 2 sessions of the legislature because it was a constitutional amendment. And then in 2010, it passed a statewide vote. 63% of Iowans said, yes, we want to create the Natural Resources and Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund. The catch was that it wasn't actually funded until the legislature raised the sales tax. And then the first 3/8 of that sales tax increase would go into the trust fund. And here we are 15 years later, and it has yet to be funded. Its popularity has only increased since then. More than 80% of people are now in favor of funding the trust fund, but it still hasn't happened yet. There have been a handful of bills that have been introduced, and nothing's ever got enough momentum to actually make it through the legislature to fund the trust. But it would be somewhere between $180 and $200 million per year that is going toward natural resources and outdoor recreation in Iowa. So that's a lot of lost opportunity since 2010. It's more than $2 billion that could have gone toward water quality and soil health in Iowa. And we're hoping there's going to be some momentum again here soon, but it is as yet unfunded.
So Governor Reynolds just can't go out and write a check for it then and get it started.
Right.
She can have some influence, I'd imagine, but...
Right, yeah. It has to be a sales tax increase passed by the legislature that's actually going to put money into the trust fund.
Has there ever been a vote to do that? Or
there's never been a vote on the floor of the House or Senate that would have actually funded it. At least nothing that got serious consideration. As I said, there have been a number that have been introduced. Even as recently as 2020, Governor Reynolds had her Invest in Iowa Act that would have raised the sales tax and done some other income tax reform. Of course, later in 2020, in March of 2020, everyone knows what happened. And I think priorities shifted there. So it didn't get funded. More recently, Senator Dan Dawson has been working on packaging, funding the trust along with some other tax reform packages. It's something he's real passionate about, but we haven't seen it across the finish line, obviously. And just this morning, they wrapped up the legislative session and nothing there yet either. So we're hoping next year. Senator Dan Dawson, Representative Bobby Kaufman, both chairs of the Ways and Means committees in the Senate and the House respectively, have both said they support this. It's going to really take them and some other senators and representatives that are pushing it, and we're hoping the governor can make it a priority next year as well. So
this isn't a Democrat-Republican thing, or not necessarily?
No, absolutely not. There have been bills introduced from both parties. We always say conservation shouldn't be a partisan issue. I think anything can be made into a partisan issue, but we see support from this on both sides of the aisle, and we're hopeful that it can get some momentum next year.
Are there any other conservation water quality legislation laws out there that are looking hopeful?
As I said, the session just wrapped up today. It wasn't great news, but I think status quo. So we saw funding for the Resource Enhancement and Protection Program that's been around since 1989. It's actually never been fully funded, but at least it got status quo funding at $12 million this year. That goes into a lot of water quality and soil health programs, along with land protection at the county level. And then back in 2018, Senate File 512 allocated about $280 million over 11 years. So it's it's really a drop in the bucket compared to what is required for water quality in Iowa if we want to meet the goals of the nutrient reduction strategy. But there haven't been any other, pieces of landmark legislation that are really going to move the needle in the way that we think the trust fund can on water quality and soil preservation.
Do you do much in the future? And what I'm thinking about is not necessarily farmers, landowners, farmers also that say, I don't want to get involved with this now, but when I'm done with my land, I would like to set it up the right way. Do you do much of that sort of thing in future planning?
Absolutely. We actually have a whole book and a website we created called Iowa Landowners Options. And folks that are interested in land protection, either right now or they want it to be their legacy, there's all different kinds of things you can do. If it's a conservation easement, those protections stay on the land now and in perpetuity for all future landowners. If you want to do a reserve life estate where you continue to own and manage the land, but you know that it's going to be taken care of after your lifetime, that's another protection tool that a lot of people like to take advantage of, if they want to continue to live and work on their land, but have kind of the peace of mind that they know it's going to be protected when they're gone. That's another great tool. Or just talking about estate planning. It's something we do with a lot of folks that are interested in making sure that their dreams for their land can come true in the future.
I myself being in the real estate business, see this a lot where somebody passes away and you got a lot of relatives or some relatives, some who knows who, that just want the money, and you wonder why the older man or older woman just didn't think through this a little more. I mean, you don't want to throw them under the bus, but a lot of this land is either split up, taken apart, sold to other people. And I don't mind private landowners owning things. That's not the issue. But if they got a legacy and they want it to be done right, now that's the time to do it. So it's kind of frustrating sometimes but a lot of people when they get older just don't want to make decisions. And they don't want to make anybody mad, and they don't. It's a tough one. It's a complicated subject, and it's something we tell landowners a lot. You don't have to make all the decisions right now, but you want to think through them. Like, what are the possibilities? And make your wishes clear so that whether it's you that's making that happen or someone else in the future, it's really a great idea to plan that as much as you can in advance. Right. Well, and Iowa's water isn't as good as it could be. So that, do you guys get involved with any water quality when I'm talking about not necessarily conservation, but wetlands? I think there could be a real future in Iowa of getting small wetlands up and down streams. You don't have to have big pieces of property, and a lot of times where those wetlands might go probably is marginal land anyway. And so do you see a big push on that? Or I think when it comes to water quality in Iowa, it's kind of an all hands on deck approach that we're going to need. So every tool, every edge of field practice you can think of. But at Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, we're really partial to natural solutions like wetland restoration and oxbow restoration, where it's going to have these multiple stacked benefits. It's going to slow down and hold water. It's going to filter water. It's going to create wildlife habitat. It's addressing so many needs that we have that I think you're right. There's such an opportunity to do a lot of wetland construction and restoration. That's going to, as our weather events become more severe, it's really a tool for protection against that as well as water quality. It's kind of this extra reserve we need in high water events. And so I think there's a real opportunity there. Do you get many corporate donors into the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation? Any businesses?
Yeah. Like I said, we have about 10,000 members all across Iowa, and some really great corporate support too. It's we're really in the people business. Even though we're doing conservation, it's all about working with people to make it happen. But there's some really great businesses in Iowa that that believe in outdoor recreation, They believe in quality of life. They also realize that quality of life, if you want to get people to live and work in Iowa, means you need to invest in our environment. We need a healthy environment where people have opportunities to get outside, and businesses really recognize that. So we have some really great supporters there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really think the fishing in Iowa could be a tremendous resource.
Mm-hmm.
People don't think about fishing the Raccoon River or the Des Moines River or Turkey Creek or whatever it might be. I know Des Moines River up by West Bend they claim as walleye fishing is tremendous.
Yeah.
But we don't really know that. I mean, and then people wonder, is it safe to eat fish out of? I mean, so I think that there's a lot of negatives out there, but we, like the Raccoon River, is a tremendous source. I mean, when we used to fish a lot in the Skunk River, even Squaw Creek. Well, it's not Squaw Creek anymore; it's IWill Creek. But they had a lot of smallmouth bass, and as long as they don't go dry once in a while, they can really be tremendous places.
Yeah. I think we have some really great waterways. We're really a state of rivers. If you look at the water in Iowa, and there's a lot of opportunity there. And it's a shame that sometimes people are afraid to get into the water or to eat fish from the water. And I think that's one of the reasons we really need to address these things if we want people to fully embrace the outdoors here in Iowa.
Right, right. Well, do you have anything to leave us with here? I mean, yeah. I mean, we appreciate you coming, and we're all going to be good supporters of Iowa, and that's what this podcast is going to be all about.
Yeah.
So we're certainly glad you came here, and appreciate all your staff down at the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation. And
boy, I really appreciate it, Mark. Excited to be on the podcast today. For folks that are interested, we have some real exciting projects happening right now. Trout stream protection in northeast Iowa, upland protection in south central Iowa, a really important piece up around the Iowa Great Lakes and Okoboji. Folks can learn about that, events we have coming up, volunteer opportunities, all at our website at INHF.org. So there's a lot of great stuff happening.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. There's, and even, I say something to people every once in a while. We've got some farms that we look after that's got a lot of pheasants on them.
Mm-hmm.
And some people say, I can't believe that. We don't have any pheasants left in Iowa. And if we have habitat, we'll have them.
Yep.
And that's what it's all about.
Yep.
So anyway, I appreciate your time today, and good luck with everything, and keep us informed.
Thanks a lot, Mark. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.